Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. A reminder that this meeting is being webcast, so please speak clearly and use the microphones. Tonight's service profiles will be on public safety. So we'll start with animal services, and then we'll have a brief overview by the chief and then get into the other departments. But before we do that, we have some housekeeping from last week where we didn't have a quorum. I think we do today. So entertain a motion for approval of the service profiles for the youth and family recreation service, athletic services, and aquatic services presented on the 8th.
Yes.
If motion, second? Second, Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motion is approved. Okay, we'll move into animal service profiles.
We'll be providing an overview of the entire police department. One part of our service area is animal services, and we're taking it out of order where you would expect it to appear in the presentation so that Lieutenant Sam Miguel and Supervisor Molly Manette can move on with their evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
This is Lieutenant Angie Sam Miguel, if you haven't met her before.
I'm the Operations Support Lieutenant, so I oversee the Animal Welfare Unit. So in the Animal Welfare Unit, we have one full-time manager, supervisor, and then we have 2 animal welfare officers that work the field. The supervisor also works the field, but not quite as much as the uniformed officers work daily. Every year, they handle about 3,000 calls for service. It's stayed fairly consistent. Calls for service include animal abuse, animal neglect, found animals, dogs at large, sick and injured animals, potentially dangerous dogs, abandoned animals, and ongoing nuisance complaints like barking and things like that. The revenue from the program, from licensed sales, primarily for dogs. A few people license their cats, but not very many. The licensed sales, the revenue is about $200,000 a year. And that includes about, not quite 13,000 licenses is what we're generally running every year. The community can purchase the dog licenses either online, in the mail, at the police department, or at several of the veterinary clinics in town that partner with us, as well as First Avenue Shelter. So there's quite a few places that you can buy the licenses. Homeless folks can get their animals licensed for free. It's a service that's offered through the shelter. During FY17, the Animal Services Program began a fix-it ticket program for unlicensed dogs. So if someone was contacted by an animal welfare officer and they did not have their dogs licensed, the officer would give them a notice, write the citation, but would not submit it and would allow them 2 weeks to license their dog. If they did so, then the ticket is not filed. And so we went through a formal process with the municipal court to get that approved. And that's in hopes of increasing license sales. During the last few years, we've had quite a variety of animals that we've been dealing, some because of the increased livestock and stuff, chickens that are in town, but some of the animals we've dealt with are llamas, pigs, goats, tortoises, hamsters, chinchillas, chickens, iguanas, snakes. We even had a bush baby and a Patagonia Mara. So quite a variety of animals that we're seeing these days. So we're working a little bit closer with the Oregon Department of Agriculture and the Oregon Humane Society. And Wildlife Safari, we've worked with them a little bit as well. We do maintain a budget every year of about $20,000 for emergency veterinary services for animals. And these are for domestic animals that may have gotten hit by a car or are stray and injured in some fashion, and a Good Samaritan takes them to the veterinary hospital. We authorize payment on those. Sometimes the owners can be found and they reimburse for that, but we do provide care for animals that are turned in by Good Samaritans to the veterinary hospital. We contract with Green Hill Humane Society to provide the sheltering services for us. They do that currently at First Avenue Shelter at First and Burleson. In FY16, we the city of Eugene brought in about 1,328 animals in the course of the year, and in FY17 it was 1,312 animals that were brought through the facility. It's probably the biggest stressor on the animal services budget right now is the cost of the sheltering services. It's a bit more expensive than it was estimated to be in 2012 when the program started. So that's a little bit of a stressor. Next year we'll be going out to RFP for a new contract to provide the sheltering services. So we'll probably be dealing with it a little bit at that time. And that's about all I have, so
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Gubanikin. I am the Central Services Department Finance Manager, and I'm here tonight to speak briefly to you about the Spay and Neuter Clinic, which is under the umbrella of the Animal Services and organizationally is located in our department under the City Manager's Office. The city has operated a low-cost spay and neuter clinic since early 1980s, and the spay and neuter clinic program has three primary goals. Number one is to enhance public safety in the community by reducing the unwanted cat and dog population, and that's accomplished primarily through animal surgeries. The second one is to provide affordable access to the citizens of our community, and specifically the city of Eugene, to veterinarian services so that they are able to afford those spay, neuter, and vaccination services. And the third goal is to improve animal health through offering discounted medications such as flea and tick medications, deworming medications, as well as some basic animal testing and vaccinations as part of the portfolio of services for the spay and neuter clinic. The spay and neuter clinic has experienced a fairly slow but steady increase in the number of spay and neuter surgeries that are provided. And over the past 5 years, it's gone up between 3% and 4% pretty much every year. And in the last fiscal year, the staff have completed 300 more surgeries than 5 years ago at the same level of staffing. So folks, I really need to give huge kudos to the city manager's office, division manager Mia Cariaga, and to the staff at the Spay and Neuter Clinic, because it was their hard work and dedication that made this program a big success over the years. And just to give you a general idea, it looks like this particular slide didn't have the information, but in your packets, this slide shows the breakdown between cats and dogs. It's about 60% are cat surgeries and 40% dogs. A big objective for the Spay and Neuter Clinic is to ensure a full cost recovery. And again, the staff have done really amazing job in terms of achieving that over the years. Over the past, in the last couple of fiscal years, the program has brought in about $1.20 in revenue for every dollar spent on the program. And as you all know, there are not too many general fund programs out there with this level of revenue recovery. The revenues for this program are comprised primarily of charges for the spay and neuter surgeries, charges for vaccinations, and the sale of animal medications. Additionally, this program also receives 5% of the animal license revenue to support the low-cost spay and neuter program that allows that affordable access for citizens. And also, we additionally have been receiving some donations that support that particular program as well. And that's kind of how the cost recovery has looked, and really has improved quite a bit over the last several years. In conclusion, a couple of words about some of the current trends and challenges for this particular program. One is really the steady increase in workload. As you saw, the number of surgeries keeps going up, and there are some physical limitations as to how much can be done with existing staffing. So we continue to monitor that to see how we can continue to meet the demand for services in a cost-efficient manner. And the other big challenge is the facility itself where the service is provided. Besides being somewhat outdated and functionally obsolete, it also doesn't really allow for much expansion in terms of the service. There is a pretty strong need right now for having a dedicated vet exam room for vaccination services, not something that can be accommodated within the current facility footprint. So that continues to be the challenge, something that we will keep looking into addressing going forward. And that is all I have on this Spay and Neuter Clinic.
Thank you. So we'll just start a queue of questions if anybody has any. informal tonight. Go ahead. Liza.
I noticed that one of these metrics is the percent increase in the number of licenses. Is there any way, do we have a sense of like what percentage of dogs in the city are licensed? And is that flat line due to like just there are fewer dogs to get licensed, or?
Yeah, I don't think we have a really good sense of how many dogs are in the community. When dogs get their rabies vaccinations, the veterinary clinics make the notifications, so then we know. So that's the only way we have of gauging. In 2014, you'll see on the slide that showed that there were about 1,400 dogs licensed, and then it drops down slowly to like almost 13,000, 12,900 in the following years. And 2014 is when we transferred from the county's system of licensing to Pet Data, which is the company that manages our program. So it was about that time frame. So we had a lot of licenses that were automatically transferred over from the county system. So it's hard to tell how accurate that very first number was, because we had some addresses in the River Road area that got transferred over that were in fact county addresses, and there were some glitches with that. So we feel like it's probably going to stay around the 13,000 number for licenses, but we're trying to do some things to increase the sales. We've increased the number of vendors that are selling the licenses, and the Fix-It ticket program, even though it impacts a small number of people, I think it'll be a success in the future.
Okay, so we don't really have a sense of the percentage of dogs that are licensed total. It's more sort of.
I don't. Molly Manette, back in the back row, is the animal welfare supervisor. She might have a little better idea, but.
No, the tricky thing we come up against being Eugene is the Eugene addresses that fall in the county versus Eugene addresses that fall in the city, and so it adds an additional confusion to the vet clinics and where records are being sent, which we hope to fix with future changes to our ordinances. But yeah, it is tricky to lay down the number of dogs that we actually have in the city limits.
I'll put myself in the queue. On the 20,000 that's allocated every year for the animals that have been injured, is that depleted every year, or do you need more than that amount? Where do we fall in that budget?
Last year, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Molly, we went a little bit over, but we had about $5,000 worth of donation money, so we can use a little bit of that. But we could pretty much spend it every year if we wanted to. We try to be pretty conservative with it. If a citizen's dog were to get hit and it goes in, and it needs treatment right away, they'll call us, we'll authorize it. If we can find the owner, the owner will be responsible and pay. If not, and if it ends up going to the shelter and being put up for adoption, then we'll cover the cost of that. We also use that fund to pay for treatment of neglected and abused animals. So a fair amount of that goes towards their care as well.
Thank you.
I'll do one more.
Yeah.
Looking at the number of animal welfare officers you have, do you feel like that's enough for the city of the size? Do you feel like you have a really long response time where someone will call and it'll take a long time for someone to get out, or is it more sort of?
Yes. The problem is with 2 officers, they work 7 days a week, but if somebody has a day off, there's no coverage. Mm-hmm. Or if someone's sick, there's no coverage. So there's only 1 day a week where they both work. So we have quite often times when there's not an animal services officer on for 24 or 48 hours. So sometimes calls will go on the log and they won't get responded to for a while. But if it's a true emergency, our police officers end up picking up the slack. So if we had more animal welfare officers, it would definitely cut down on the extra work the police officers have to pick up for us. But overall, I think they're managing their workload pretty well.
But it sounds like they probably don't have a ton of time. You said, when time allows, patrol the city for people with dogs without leashes and things like that.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of time for that, Because if they get 5 or 6 calls in a day, which is pretty common, you're transporting animals to the shelter and to the vet and you're interviewing people. It takes time on a lot of those calls.
I have a follow-up question to that. When a police officer takes over, when there's not somebody in that area available, how does that work? I mean, do they have to go get the truck and come out, or?
Oh, no. If an officer were dispatched to an injured animal, for example, they would just put the animal in their patrol vehicle and transport it. All the officers have access to First Avenue Shelter, so they can lodge dogs there at night or animals. So it doesn't really create a whole lot of extra time for them other than the time to manage the call. And with the officer's call load being so heavy, animal service calls end up being a lower priority, so they really do sit there for a while if there's not an animal service officer on.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
You can get the time. Animal services will be followed by the chief.
All right.
Oh, I had one in my
Thank
pen.
you.
That's what it was.
Take a pause. Entertain a motion to approve the animal services service profiles. Motion, second.
I'll second.
John's second. All in favor? It's unanimous. It's approved.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you for being here tonight and being on the budget committee. I know it's a lot of work and a big commitment, but I sure appreciate the work that you do for all of us. I'm just going to give an overview of where the work is in Eugene and what the effect it has on some of our services because it's illustrative of the impact that our call load has on the entire department. So we view this, a number of these slides that you're going to see, we view once a month in our senior staff team meetings, and then we also present these to the police commission once a month. And we're looking at 2 sets of data. One is public-initiated calls for service, and the other is officer-initiated work. So what you see in this map is that, first of all the data we're going to look at is from January 1/14 to October 31/17. We acquired a new records management system at the end of 2013, so the best data we have goes back to January 1st. And what you see in this slide is that when the public calls us for anything, whether they've just been the victim of a robbery or an assault or someone stole their bicycle, when the public calls us, a little data point goes on this map. And you'll find in the last 3 years, this is where the concentration of work is. It's in the West University neighborhood, downtown, and Whiteaker. And when our officers initiate some kind of activity, they stop somebody for running a red light, or they see somebody drinking alcohol in public, or they pull over because they see a fight, it's in precisely the same place, West University, downtown, and Whiteaker neighborhood. You're going to look at this data a couple times here. We go to about 300 to 350 calls for service a day. And in the last 46 months, the period of this data, our public-initiated calls for service have gone up about 30, I think that says 36 up there, 36%. As a consequence, this is a simple math. There's only so many officers that we have working for us, only so many working each day. As a consequence, the officer-initiated work has gone down almost the same amount, 33%. So the community-initiated calls for service have gone up by about 64 a day. The officer work has gone down by about 42. The sum is that it's all gone up about 22 calls a day. We've been trying to understand what is driving the increase in calls for service. By our experience, we feel we have a pretty good idea. There's a lot more street activity, a lot more crimes that occur on the street and in public view today than there were 10 years ago. What this shows is that one of the greatest growths has been in disputes. These happen in public places. They take about 28 hours of our day every day. Criminal trespass takes up about 10 hours of our day, work hours every day. Disorderly subjects, about 10 hours. Response to burglaries, about 10 and a half hours. So this is where we've seen the greatest increase in our workload, and it's helping us to understand how to deploy our officers and how best to address the calls that we get. Now, among the top dispatch calls for service are disputes, and what you see in this slide is that disputes have gone up from last year. They've gone up about 10% here. They represent about 10% of our total dispatched calls for service since January of 14. And 673 of those occur within this 36 square block area around 6th and Blair. 6th and Blair, there's a 7-Eleven there. Not that the 7-Eleven is the issue, but that's kind of the center of where these types of incidents occur. And then the second top response area is Broadway and Olive, which is right up the street from where we are now. Another category is trespass calls for service. Again, we've seen a similar increase of about 11%. There's been about 1,100 of these that occur within 20 square blocks of 10th and Olive. I don't see it on this particular slide, but the other place where we see these is within the area around 12th and High. Burglaries, as you saw from the chart, are also a common call. These have gone down a little bit in the last year, which is a good sign. Most of the burglaries, the highest concentration of burglaries is in the West University neighborhood, and that's not a new phenomenon. We've been working on that for quite some time. Burglaries in that neighborhood spike during the spring break and winter break, and so we increase our policing in that neighborhood, and that has had the effect of leveling off the increase. So this is our calls for service again from the first slide. This dark line indicates down here indicates the public initiated calls for service. Those are the dark bars. The lighter blue bars are the officer initiated. What these two lines here represent are the number of officers that work in a 24-hour period. That number has been pretty constant for the last 10 years or so. We have about 50 officers that work every 24 hours. So as the demand for our service goes up, the number of officers available to respond to those calls does not go up, and the effect is that they're doing less proactive work. The problem with that is that means there's fewer officers writing tickets for people running red lights, so we're not decreasing traffic crashes that way. There's fewer officers contacting people they know that are active criminals, so we're not discouraging crimes that they might commit. Those kinds of activities that enable us to manage crime we're less and less able to do that. This is the other effect that this has. Priority 1 and 2 calls are the highest level of emergencies that we respond to. It's a crime in progress, or someone may be hurt. This could be a call where someone picks up the phone to call 911 to say that they're being assaulted by their spouse, for instance. So it's a pretty dire circumstance. What you see here is, again, there's two shaded bars. One is the queue time, and the other is the response time. So the queue time begins to run when the 911 call taker answers the phone. Someone says, I'm being assaulted by my spouse. Call taker takes the information, launches the call to the dispatcher, and then the dispatcher looks at the screen and sees that the call's there. This is an emergency call, but also sees how many officers available. Often, no officers are available. They're all on calls. And so the dispatcher needs to make a decision. Do I wait until someone is available from a call they're already on and then send them? Or do I ask any unit that can clear from the call you're on, there's an emergency someplace else we'd like you to go to? So the time between the moment that the call taker picks up the 911 call to the moment the dispatcher sends an officer on that's the queue time. Okay? And what causes that queue time to grow longer is the availability of officers to respond to a call. The response time is how long it takes the officer who's received the call to drive there. So what you see in this is that in the last 46 months, that queue time has gone up 14% or 40 seconds, which may not seem like a lot unless you're the one that's being assaulted. And then the response time has gone up about 55 seconds. And that's probably because officers, we have 6 beats. We have sometimes more than one officer assigned to each beat. And the concept is that if the officer is in their beat when the call is dispatched, then they're probably going to be the closest unit to respond. But the reality is that our officers, since there's so few of them relative to the workload, they're responding all over town. And so the officer going to this priority 1 or 2 call could be coming from anywhere. Priority 3 calls are also crimes in progress, but they're less serious crimes. And as you can see here, the queue time for these less serious crimes has gone up 79% or 13 minutes, which could be a long wait for somebody. And the response time has only gone up about 44 seconds. Priority 4 and 5 calls, these are colder calls. This could be the burglary, so somebody had their house broken into and their personal effects stolen. As you can see from this, the queue time has gone up 74 minutes, and the response time has gone up 2 minutes. Some of these, in some cases, and this is usually where a suspect is known, or the suspect, there's likely to be evidence where we can determine who the suspect is. It's not unusual for these calls to wait more than a day, but if the officer's available and the calls aren't too busy, then they can be dispatched immediately. So where we've seen the greatest increase in our workload is in these 3 neighborhoods: downtown, West University, and the Whiteaker neighborhood. And what you see from this slide is that we've seen a 35% increase in calls for service in the downtown area. Even as we put police officers down there, you can see from this last summer, we assigned officers there in April, and 2 extra officers downtown in April, and the call load went up. One likely explanation for that is that if there are no officers visible in the street, and people who live or work downtown don't often see officers, they may just, there's an apathy effect where they don't feel there's much point in calling when they see somebody in a pushing match in front of their shop. But if they know an officer is likely to respond, they're more likely to call. The West University neighborhood has 1 foot patrol officer. That's a partnership it's paid for by a partnership with EPD, the business district there, and University of Oregon. And calls have gone up there about 25%. And those include the University District Hospital, Circle K, that area, Whitebird, and probably another that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. The 3rd neighborhood that we try to keep track of is Whiteaker, and calls for service there have gone up about 37%. There is well, this last summer, you've probably heard a little bit about our increased efforts to improve safety downtown and in the parks, particularly the parks along the river. Some of that police presence and the positive activity that we've designed into our efforts downtown has probably displaced some of the people who have generated calls for service. I'm sure that's had an effect in the Monroe Street Park, for instance, where we've seen an increase in calls, and also Scobert Park, which is at 4th and Blair. So there is a displacement effect to the increased efforts that we put into a certain area, at least the way that we're going about it presently. And then our crime rates have gone up a little bit. Our person crimes, assaults and the like, have gone up about 20%. Property crime only about 2.3%. And society crime, those are the quality of life crimes that occur in parks and downtown, have gone down a little bit. I think the increased presence in the spring and summer has probably made a difference with that. So what we've done, a number of different departments across the city have expanded their efforts to improve safety, but also to improve the activity downtown. One of the pilot projects has been the CORT program, the Community Outreach and Response Team. This is a few of our downtown officers working together with mental health, qualified mental health professionals and social workers. And they studied the top 300 arrestees over a certain period of time, identified who those folks were, worked on the very top number of those, and together just interacted with them as much as they could, asking how they can support them so that they're not in the lifestyle of living on the street, helping them to get identification, connecting them with family, finding housing, those kinds of things. And the top 300, this is a changing population of people. Some remain the same for years, I'm sure, but some change, some of the membership changes. So if you're just looking at the top 300, that's this line that changes color here. So there continue to be some of the same people, some changing. This line here are the people that the CORT program worked with. So their recidivism rate dropped dramatically during this time. So this is evidence to us that this particular pilot program is worth investing in. We probably find a way, we will look for ways to expand this. And then this last slide has to do with our CAHOOTS services. You know, CAHOOTS is dispatched out of our communications center, our 911 center, which you'll hear more about here in a little bit. Dispatches police, fire, and CAHOOTS and emergency medical services. So last year, the budget committee and the city council approved about $250,000 to expand CAHOOTS services to 24 hours. And this shows the number of calls for service that it's increased since that 24-hour service went into effect. So the reality is the work has probably been there for some time, and the workload is the demand has increased a little bit also. So what the exec team is working on right now is a presentation for City Council that will show where we would expand our community justice system, how we would expand it if we had the funding to do so. And what we're going to continue to look for is these types of solutions. So community court, for instance, which meets here, hasn't had the effect of decreasing crime on the street much, probably. Hasn't had the chance of moving the metrics on our calls for service or that we've seen. But for the people who are involved in community court, their likelihood of recidivating is very low. They do improve. They do move on to a healthier lifestyle. And that's only a pilot project. So you have to ask yourself what kind of effect we could have on our public safety if we could stabilize funding for community court and maybe even expand it. It's the kind of thing that you would establish by neighborhood. So that's a possibility that we might present. Another is the CORT program. In a lot of communities, it's known as a homeless outreach team. The police officer, mental health worker, and social worker together proactively projecting into the neighborhoods and helping people who would otherwise generate those calls for service that are affecting police services, emergency medical services, emergency rooms, and so on. So that's another thing that we'll probably have out there. We've had a couple of studies that have shown that we should have more staffing in the communications center, for our evidence control unit, and in our patrol and investigations and community service officers. So those are the things that we will bring together when we present to council in January. That's what I've got. This is our org chart, and we're ready to move on to the first service area when you are.
Would you like to entertain questions?
Yeah.
For the overview before we move into patrol?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah. And then John.
Chief Kearns, could you basically explain how community court works?
Yes. Community court, we didn't invent community court. It's been effective in quite a number of different cities. New York City, I think, might have been where it was first discovered as an effective model. Our team, and I wasn't involved in this, our team went to Spokane with police, prosecutors, defense attorney, judges, court administrators to see how it worked there. And that's essentially what we modeled when we set it up here. The way it works is the court establishes a geographical area where it wants to make a difference, and in this case it's the downtown core. Certain types of offenses could qualify a person to go into community court. They don't have to have been arrested or cited. Anyone can volunteer to go into community court if they want to. When they arrive, and their turn comes up, they meet on a table like this rather than with the judge up on a bench, and so it's far less formal. The judge, the defense attorney, and the prosecutor discuss the offense that brought them there and what the defendant is willing to do in the next week or month in order to improve their situation. And then in the next room are a host of services, local services that are set up at tables to help the person start to make those appointments that they're going to need to have, and also to gain the services that they feel they need in order to survive. And rather than going to jail, they're asked to come back the next week and the next week and the next week, and the judge just marks their progress. And what they found is that if we take someone with a mental health condition or an addiction and we put them in the jail, and at arraignment a judge says go to an appointment in the Harlow neighborhood for your mental health condition, go to an appointment in the Whiteaker neighborhood for your medical condition, go to the Social Security office for another thing, that person is probably not going to be able to make any of those appointments. They'll be arrested again, they'll go back to jail, and it just goes on and on and on. This ensures that a person can walk away from the table here with the judge and receive the services that they need immediately.
So are they actually booked in the jail and then released and told to come to community court? Or
They-
how does that work?
They could be, but more often than not, they'll be issued a citation.
And saying you got to go to community
Yes,
court?
and the court is here on Fridays, and so it's convenient.
The police officer does it?
Yes, police officer invites them to come here, yeah.
And if they don't, then a warrant goes out?
It could go out, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It seems, just looking at what you're presenting, that the court and CAHOOTS and such are definitely helping and making some improvements for the sworn officers. Any data or initial indications, cost benefit, dollars spent on CAHOOTS versus, equates to a certain number of less officers needed on the street because they're dealing with the mental health in an appropriate way, rather than any thoughts on that? How are you doing? How's it working?
CAHOOTS is a pretty good program for us because if, first of all, they go to a large category of their calls, police or EMS would not respond to those. So they aren't calls that we should handle. But then the rest of them are calls that would either go to EMS or they would go to police. And it's not a matter of how we're able to have fewer police on the street because they're out there. But what we're talking about is this box of capacity. And the capacity to do police work is either diminished by work that others could do, or it grows because others have taken that work on, or it's diminished because there's more work to do. So CAHOOTS relieves us of the responsibility of some types of calls, absolutely. And it's better to have it than not have it. It's more affordable than a police officer's hourly rate. So I'd say, has the analysis been done? No, but it's pretty evident that it has that effect.
Sean?
Thanks for the presentation. I can't believe I'm going to suggest this, but with passive traffic camera type systems, do you see a good return on investment there? I know you mentioned that the higher call volume has taken a lot of the manpower off the streets in that capacity. So can you replace that with more passive systems?
I think we can, I think, well, from what little I understand about it, we could enhance the safety in some intersections with traffic light cameras, yes, we could. It's not much of an investment. There's all different kinds of contracts that you can agree to with the firms that provide that service. And they could be installed and used at no new cost to the agency that works with them.
Would that fall under the police department, or would that be a part of a different department's budget?
It would probably be the police department, and perhaps engineering could share the costs. The police officer does have to take time off the street in order to review the files, that are generated by it. The way it would work is that we'd discuss this with a firm that could provide the service. They'd come in and set up a not a faux camera, but a test camera to see what numbers of violations occur at an intersection, and if they think that it makes a good business sense to them. In other words, if they think they would make money here in Eugene doing that, then we'd come to some agreement. Or if Eugene decided that regardless of whether it would generate enough to pay for the system, we wanted to pay to have them there, we could do that too. And then the camera just starts capturing violations. Police officer once a day that has that intersection would have to sit down in front of a computer, and they would select those violations where they felt the offender, the image of the offender appeared to match the person that it was registered to, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And whether or not it looks like a clear violation that they could prove in court, and they issue the citations electronically from that system. So it's gotten to be pretty efficient, and I think in the long term it's something that we might want to consider.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the top 300 list and the increase in disputes, is it feeling like it's sort of a similar kind of group, that you're getting like the same people who are just kind of having more problems, having more disputes, things like that? Or is it we think that there are more people in the city who are I guess getting in disputes, for lack of a better phrase?
Yeah, it looks like it's both those things.
Okay.
The annual homeless count that occurs in January in every county in the United States, our homeless count over the last 10 years has gone up a little bit. I think when right now it's at about 1,500, and last year it was 1,400, and I don't recall what it was the year before that. I think it dropped last year from the previous year. But the chronically homeless population, which are people who are without some significant intervention, are likely to spend the rest of their lives living on the street, people with severe mental health conditions and addictions, that population within the larger homeless population has grown over the last 5 years or so. And these are people who have struggled to manage their behavior, and are often find themselves interacting with police because of a minor crime that they've committed. We spoke with the sheriff's office today about inmates at the jail. Pretty high percentage of the people that are lodged in the jail have a mental health condition. The most difficult group for them to manage are the people that the Eugene Police Department arrests into our municipal court system. And so I think that the growth in that population, pretty needy population, is what's driven some of this.
And so it's not, because I'm assuming that the disputes category includes both sort of a dispute in the park, as well as like a dispute within a private home, that kind of thing. Is that correct?
It could. We haven't broken it down that way. There was a time where we were monitoring simple assaults, which often involved domestic violence, and we saw that they were clustered in places where there are apartment complexes and concentrated neighborhoods. So after 2008, I think a lot of agencies started to see an increase in assaults. I don't know what the explanation is for that, so it could be that as well, yes.
Any other questions? Move into the patrol presentation.
Hello. So So patrol covers.
Would you mind introducing
Oh,
yourself?
I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Captain Sherry Meisel. I am the patrol captain, and this is
Acting Captain Sean McGann. So I'm in the Special Operations Division with, just have a few of the teams that are under the Patrol Division.
So patrol division encompasses all of our uniformed officers, and it includes basically the officers that you see every day doing routine patrol work, although routine is a misnomer. It also includes our traffic enforcement unit, school resources team, our canine officers, crisis negotiation team, SWAT, explosive disposal unit, major collision investigations, and crime prevention team and airport. Most of those teams are full-time. A couple of them are what we consider ad hoc teams. So they have regular patrol duties, and the extra team, the ad hoc team, is something extra that they do. So for example, SWAT is an ad hoc team. It works out pretty well, but it does present some challenges because there's a lot of extra training that goes on with those teams, and we have to sometimes detach people, and that will affect our staffing. Oh, that's investigations. Right now, we are slated to have 124 FTE for the whole patrol division. That's all ranks, and currently we're at 103 operational. What happens is we have people that are hired and we have positions filled, but if they get injured, they're not able to perform their duties as needed, or we have a hiring lag. So we have folks that have been hired, but they haven't been fully trained yet. We have people in different phases of our training. So right now, just in regular patrol operations, we have 92 folks that are positions, and we're at 77 operationally because of injuries and people at different phases of training, or hirees that are waiting to get into the training program in Salem. So that presents quite a bit of a challenge. We have had an analysis done that an employee, without even having an ad hoc assignment, just with regular training, we have them between vacation, sick time, training, about 0.7% or 70% of the time. So it's not even 100% of their working day is doing their main patrol function. We also have some other challenges. We have a 1.2 officer per 1,000 ratio in our department. The national standard is, or the national average is about 2.3 officers per 1,000 folks. So we've already started with a very slim ratio. And then, as the chief had already explained, as calls for service have gone up, our numbers have stayed static, and that presents some additional challenges in addressing some of the concerns. Some of the other issues that we face that take up a lot of time recently, especially in those three areas, have to do a lot with the car camping issues, the quality of life issues, including noise complaints and things like that, that tend to wait for a long time for us to be able to respond effectively.
And really, as far as any questions that you have, as far as I've got the traffic enforcement unit. Currently, we're down one position there, and again, that goes back to the staffing issue. We're anticipating filling that hopefully in the springtime. That's fully funded within the department. School resource team, we have 5 positions, and that's a joint venture with 4J and Bethel. It's just about $500,000 that they pay, and we pay the other half. So it's about a 50-50 split on the salary. And then I also have the canine team, and currently we're at 1 canine out of 4, and down 2 positions in there. So if you had any specific questions, be happy to answer those about the the special operations teams that I have.
And one other thing that's important to know, we have contracted minimums for our patrol staffing. So our patrol teams, we have to have a certain amount, and if people are off on vacation or training or they're ill or injured, we have to backfill that with overtime. And anytime there are detachments for other assignments, we have to contractually backfill so that we maintain those minimums for safety. And then the airport and the school resource teams are also contractually obligated positions that we have to fill. So those also will present challenges when those folks are not available. Any questions?
Let's start the queue. Sean?
So regarding the active versus inactive because of sickness or injury, it seems like a pretty high percentage are not able to be active. Is that abnormal, or is that consistent with averages that you've seen? Or
It varies, and we call it operational versus the allotted, and it varies because of different reasons. It could be because somebody has an injury and they may be gone for a while because of surgery. It could be because we've got a bunch of retirements and we've hired folks, but the hirees haven't been fully trained, and so it's gone up and down depending on just the nature of the work. It's stayed fairly constant.
And from the time that we first go out, we're having, actually tonight is a career night being held over at 2 in Chambers for recruitment. So one of the big things is from the first time that we see somebody and they fill out that application, it's probably roughly a 12-month time lag from the time that we first go through that application process till they go through and become an operational officer who can be counted on for staffing after they go to the State Police Academy. That's up in Salem at the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training. There's 16 weeks. We have our own in-house academy, and then they also have a field training and evaluation program, and that's on average about 4 months. So we want to have them very highly trained, but we also have a fairly significant amount of time that it takes, and if we do have an employee who separates for one reason or another, either retirement or pursue another option or career, family, lifestyle, whatever.
Promotions.
And promotions certainly have that ripple effect within the department too. So it's pretty consistent across the board, and that's one of the things that either overhire or can help to offset that lag time. And then certainly when we're operating within these staffing constraints that we have, that's why the teams as we go through are, the majority of my teams have at least one vacancy at a minimum on those. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thanks.
John, and then Eliza.
I'm sorry, you have to repeat the numbers that you said. You said there's 120 something positions, FTEs available, 102.
120 FTE in just patrol.
Right, and but 102 of those positions
And
are
we have
filled.
103 operational.
So of that difference, are they hired and they're in training, or is there, you have yet to actually fill all the positions?
It's a variety of things. Some of them are patrol positions that we have folks in different places in the training process. We have some new hires that I think are going to begin in January, so they're not even started yet.
So they're being paid, but they're not operational?
No.
Is there a
We've got-
historical number that of true vacancies that, you've talked about a number of vacancies on different teams. Are there a number of open positions that you wish to hire that have been unable to for some reason?
Well, it's not that we haven't been able to for some reason, but they keep coming up. For example, the chief is a vacancy that we have to fill, and that causes a ripple effect. We have another captain position, so we have an acting captain who leaves an opening for a lieutenant, so then we have an acting lieutenant, and so on. So some of it is for those kinds of reasons. I don't have the actual like vacancies where we don't have hires off the top of my head.
But in theory, are you permitted to hire as many vacancies you have or as many as you predict? I mean, it's predictable somebody in the next year is going to promote. Are you able to be proactive, or is it
We keep track
strictly
of that,
reactive?
and we are trying to hire as fast as we can for the positions that we have.
What you talked about needing to backfill and
We've got, Tim is our hiring manager. He can.
He does a fantastic job, too.
I'm Tim Shuck. I'm the Operations Support Division Manager and Recruiting and Hiring, which you're going to see a little bit later. We currently have 9 officer positions that are open. We have 2 command staff. One is the chief and one is the captain. So from the perspective of hiring, we would hire those 9 folks. We have just recently given offer letters to 5 people. So from that perspective, we have 4 openings. And as Sean mentioned, we're currently right now recruiting for police officers. So.
what, so you talked about a little bit that you're required to backfill, and there's a bunch of. Any idea how much in overtime you're having to actually pay out in a given pay period? How painful is this, that time and a half versus just hiring the rest of the positions?
We have a budget for overtime because that's to be expected in our line of work because of emergencies and so on. I don't know the actual number for pay period.
Or some,
in my head.
How much is your overtime budget? I mean, in theory, you could extrapolate out that equates to a certain number of people.
The overtime budget for, I'm the finance manager for the police department, Elizabeth Weber. The overtime budget for the police department is 1.7 million. Patrol is about 858,000.
Okay, so in theory, at time and a half, you got a couple positions worth that you could actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well.
Is there a problem to just hire those other positions, or?
This is what we're, we have 10 vacancies before we sign these 5 offer letters. We'll have 400 people apply for a position, and we may hire only 4 of them. So that's the challenge that is occurring in law enforcement all over the country.
Oh, sure, and you see that in other places. I guess it's an expensive proposition to not hire the positions. Are our criteria that you're using exceptionally high? Is it difficult? Is there something about our pay package that isn't attracting the more highly qualified people? Why out of 400 applicants can you only get 4 qualified?
I think this is exactly the experience that most police agencies are having right now. We're competing for a workforce that has a lot of other appealing professions to go into that don't require that they work weekends and holidays and shift work, and just in Oregon, I think there's over 600 police vacancies, and all of us are trying to hire into those. Sure. So I think that the pool is growing a little thin because of those reasons. We have a pretty competitive contract, I think. We have a pretty good work environment. People want to come to work for the Eugene Police Department. I don't think we're hiring at a rate that's less than other agencies, so I can stay in touch with chiefs around the state, and we're all sort of in the same predicament. If we had the applicants to overhire, we would overhire. You're right, there is some savings that we would achieve in overtime if we could.
Thank you.
I guess I have a follow-up with sort of the overtime question and then a separate one. But with the overtime, is that primarily due to vacant positions, or is it more sort of you're out on a call, you're halfway through the call, it's, whatever the 5 o'clock equivalent is for your shift, and you're not just going to punch out in the middle and go home. You're going to finish up that piece of work.
It can be for both.
Okay.
Especially if you have a major incident, you have to recall extra resources to help SWAT callouts in particular. You have, safety issues and concerns that you have to have enough people. And you're right, we can't go, 5 o'clock, gotta go. We have to stay until a situation is stabilized and under control. And then sometimes still provide scene security for a while. So that definitely impacts the overtime budget.
Okay. And then I guess my second question was more a logistical one about the service profile materials in particular. I noticed that there was a couple of categories on here that were unable to provide data. Are those targets that are going to be changed or removed going forward?
You'll have to point out which areas.
Meet or exceed median response time for ICMA cities, unable to provide data, and then these are 4-year strategies 1, and then the 2 targets, both are the metrics don't seem to have data associated with them.
Some of those were metrics that were identified in 2005, and we're changing those targets, yes.
Okay. Do you have a sense of what sort of the new targets?
Not why I sit here now.
Okay. Thanks.
Our biggest focus right now is finding ways to build capacity back into the department by handling calls differently, certain service needs differently.
I have a question concerning strategy 5, also on the service profiles and the targets. It seems that the goal is 100% within 7 days, and fiscal year 14 we're at 33.4, and we are trending downward in the 20s. Is that still a goal, or is that something that needs to be removed as well or changed?
I think that's a great goal. I don't know if we're going to change that, but that would really go back to that capacity and having, officers running from call to call and not having the time to go back. As the chief had shown in his presentation, officer-initiated activity has gone down, and that would include some of that follow-up, that time to be able to go and do their follow-up in a, more timely fashion diminishes as their capacity is overtaken with calls for service.
Okay, so in order to hit that goal, you'd have to either increase efficiency or potentially add more
Yes.
capacity. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to entertain a motion for approval of the service profiles. Second, Eliza. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, we're a little ahead of schedule. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be back in 10 minutes, so about We're going to start with the investigation service profiles. We'll just wait on our next speaker.
Ready to start again?
We are.
Okay, I'm Captain Sherry Meisel. I'm actually the patrol captain, but our investigations captain was unable to be here today, and prior to becoming the patrol captain, I was actually the investigations captain. So I will walk you through this division. So investigations is made up of several investigative units, including our violent crimes unit, which handles our major person against person type crimes, robberies, our sex assault crimes, some of our more violent assaults, homicides, attempted homicides, that kind of thing. Our property crimes unit includes financial crimes and arson. So they're handling all of our burglaries, they're handling our financial fraud, those kinds of crimes, and of course arson is actually not a full-time unit. It's one of those ad hoc teams that I talked about, but the property crime manager, supervisor manages the unit and the budget, and they investigate all of our arson cases. Then we have the special investigations unit, and they handle our bias crime cases. They will handle gangs. They do all kinds of intelligence work regarding, any kind of threats, terrorists, that kind of executive protection type things. And then we also have the evidence control unit. So all of the property that's collected by members of the department, it could be evidence, most of it's evidence, but it could also be property from somebody that's been arrested. So prisoner property, found property, it all ends up in our evidence control unit. And then we have our forensic evidence unit, which handles all of the processing of our evidence. They do firearm examination, fingerprint, latent print, digital evidence processing, and I think probably one of the few things that they don't handle are chemical analysis and DNA. We have to send those out, and we actually are in accredited forensic lab, which is really exciting. Right now, we have a couple of shortages, like we do everywhere else, in the investigations unit. Violent crimes is down 1 investigator. Property crimes is now down 3. As of the end of this month, we have another retiree. Special investigations unit is down 1, and we are staffed fully in the evidence control unit, but that's only 5 people. So they have to cover the whole shift. And then our forensics evidence unit is fully staffed at the moment. Some of the challenges that we have, of course, is the staffing. They rely upon patrol to feed them detectives. So until my staffing in the patrol division is high enough, I can't send them people. And so we actually have a plan where we reach a certain level and we have prioritization. So violent crimes is one of our high priorities that we want to have fully staffed for obvious reasons. Some of the other challenges in the evidence control unit right now is we take in a lot of evidence, but one of the things that we have to do is purge that evidence. And so it's really time intensive. They have to do a lot of research. It could be purging, could also mean returning property to somebody, or it could mean disposing of the property in a more permanent kind of way. But in either case, it's time intensive. There's a lot of paperwork and some research that has to be done. And so what happens is we keep taking in property, and we're not releasing it or purging it, and so the amount of property is accumulating at a fast rate. And so we have to be very conscientious and cautious of not letting that get out of control, because that becomes a liability. Some of the other issues that have cropped up in investigations in general, and it affects the detectives as well as the evidence control folks and forensic control people, is our digital evidence. So the digital evidence could be something that's collected from a crime scene, surveillance camera in a business, or it could be from the body-worn cameras or the in-car video cameras. And all of that evidence has to be managed, and that can be time intensive. And the processing, because you can't just necessarily take raw footage from a surveillance camera. So the detectives aren't necessarily processing it, but they have to review it. And they're listening to all kinds of recordings that people will bring in for them as evidence, and they're looking at video that's collected. And so that is one of those things that there's just no fast way to do it. And the more our society becomes digitized, the more that's impacting those units. So those are some of the challenges that they're facing at the moment. Any questions?
For some of the service areas that, or the support areas like forensics, for instance, is there any resource sharing with other surrounding communities like Springfield, for instance?
We have on occasion shared resources in terms of, we've helped out a couple of agencies. There was one back when I was still over the unit. They were down a person in their fingerprint lab, and so we were helping them. You have to have, when somebody looks at, like, say, a piece of evidence and processes it in their fingerprint, you have to have a second person look at it and confirm your findings. And so they were needing us to help confirm findings, that kind of thing. And we've reached out to other agencies that have different labs or capabilities as well. But it's difficult because we're all in the same boat in terms of resources. So we try to help each other when we can.
So there's a consistent enough demand on those resources. It's not peaks and valleys where you can share in the
Correct.
slower times.
Yeah. I mean, even when, if somebody's in a tough spot, we will help out, and they will come and help us out. We don't want to leave anybody in dire straits, but it's not a regular kind of thing where we all have capacity at different times and, oh, hey, I can look at this.
Liza?
One thing I noticed for the past couple, for both this unit and the patrol we were looking at earlier, is the staffing levels are very consistent, but Eugene is bigger. And, you know, looking at the presentation at the very beginning about the increase in these calls, how closely is that related, do you feel?
I mean,
and maybe that's a...
I don't have any, like, statistical evidence to say that that is, but anecdotally I would say that that's a factor as well. I mean, we know that we have a low officer per population ratio. And I think as our population increases, that ratio will just decrease, and so that kind of is significant.
The Magellan report that was completed about a decade ago is the one that we still rely on to measure how far we are from the number of detectives that we would require in order to keep up with the workload. The number of burglaries per year hasn't gone down since that. It's only gone up a little bit. And so we know that we need more detectives, and it'll be part of the presentation that we make to council in January.
A question concerning strategy 4, and I believe it's the first target. It says it's to utilize the interagency narcotics enforcement team. Was that the one that was just disbanded?
Yes, the state funding had dried up, and so the other agencies also didn't have the resources to keep it going without the state funding. state resources.
And we had one officer, is that correct with?
We had
dogs?
one officer at the time that they stopped funding it, and that officer is working in investigations now.
Yeah. Is there any, are we working toward filling that void here in the city with, I think a lot of that might be, I've read that property crimes sometimes accompany that type of activity as well.
And some of our officers, our patrol officers, will work some of those kinds of cases, but right now we don't have an inter agency like that we had, and I don't know if we have any plans going forward with other agencies to be able to do something right now.
And we don't, we because of the reason that we started with the presentation on our calls for service is that we have no flexibility to participate in something like that right now. I think we had 3 positions assigned to INET, 2 vacancies that we held in order to fill the need in the other investigations units. So that, as Captain Meisel said, that detective went to the Special Investigations Unit. But you're right, property crime and a lot of the violent crime is driven by drug addiction. And those 2 measures are increasing. And so it would be nice to be able to reinstitute some kind of countywide drug task force.
A follow-up on the workload with the detectives. You said there's a proposal moving forward that would address that. Is that what I heard just a moment ago?
To address the
detectives, the numbers, to increase.
Well, yeah. When you see our community justice system plan in January, it will include detectives.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
A motion to approve service profiles for the investigators. Second. All in favor? It's unanimous. Move on to call taking and dispatch service profiles. Hi.
Hi, I'm Pam Collette. I'm the Division Manager for Technical Services for Eugene Police Department, and that includes 911, records, and data, and also the IT component of Eugene Police.
And I'm Cindy Harper, the Operations Manager for the Communications Section.
So Central Lane 911 is one of 3 911 centers in Lane County. You're probably aware of that. The others are in Cottage Grove and in Florence. And at one time there were 4 911 centers. There was also one in Oak Ridge, but it closed, and closed mainly due to staffing issues and budget, which, 911 centers are experiencing some budget issues, which I'll talk about in a little while. Central Lane 911, also known as CLCC, is by far the largest 911 center in our county. We cover about 90% of the area, and the other 2 cover the rest, and we work really collaborative together, very well together. 911 consolidation is still on the minds of our Oregon legislators, and it's important because there are only a certain number of 911 resources available to all of us. There are about 45 911 centers in Oregon across all of the counties, so it's kind of important to remember that. And the 911 tax has not grown since 1995. So it's at 75 cents per line still, and that's just not adequate to fund 911 in the state of Oregon the way it should. CLCC, Central Lane 911, serves, as you see in your materials, a number of public safety agencies and private agencies as well. We serve about 14 fire and EMS departments. We have contracts with them to dispatch for them. And then our only police department or law enforcement agency at this time is Eugene Police Department. We take about 1,200 phone calls a day. That encompasses 911 as well as Eugene Police non-emergency. About 67% of those 1,200 calls are the non-emergency lines for Eugene Police. Our staff is really proud of what they do, whether it's emergency or non-emergency. We've got a very well-trained staff. And one of the things that they talk about the most that they enjoy doing is providing emergency medical instructions to people who are in crisis, who are experiencing medical problems as responders are on the way. We have a very well-known and well-seasoned protocol that we use called priority dispatch, and they're very well trained in that. We have a really excellent and deep training program, but we've been evaluating it over the last almost 2 years now. Cindy, our operations manager, was detached for about a year last year to work on the emergency services consulting incorporated study that was done. One was done in 2006 and another was done in 2015. And then for the last year, since January, she's been working specifically on the training program. ESCI thought that our training program was maybe a little too in-depth, that many policies were incorporated into training manuals rather than kind of standing alone. So that's something that Cindy's been working on, and we have other employees working on that as well. As a result of the ESCI studies, we've paid great attention to not only the training program, but there were 17 other recommendations, I believe, that we've been working on, and we've made great advancements. Some of the other challenges we're facing are budget. I just explained the 75-cent per phone line tax. That money is just not coming to 911 centers the way it needs to. Part of that is because of the landlines going away, cellular taking over, and the state is trying to adjust how they collect those monies. And as a result, we this year have lost about $150,000 in our overtime budget that was once provided to us by the state. So that's quite a challenge that we need to reconcile. Along with that, the ESCI study has shown us that we are probably 6 people short in our FTE footprint. And that's something that we struggle with. When you are short in a footprint for a 24-hour-by-7 operation, obviously that generates overtime. We have mandatory staffing levels that are really important to maintain. We're able to do that, but we're only able to do it with overtime. So that's a struggle. Right now, we're working through a national kind of a formula, I would say, that was put together by the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials. And as we are going through that formula and adding all of the components into it, we may need as many as 12 to 14 additional people on our line level staff. So we don't have that information yet, but when we get it, we'd be happy to provide it. A few of our accomplishments that I really want to draw attention to are our retention rate for our non-probationary employees. Last year we were at about 6.5%, and for general organizations in general, not ones with shift work, but just general organizations, it's about 10% is our understanding, so we're proud of that. Our retention rate for probationary employees is not as good. We lose about 50% of the people we hire. And again, we're evaluating that, working on it. It's not unusual for a 911 center. We're right there with the other 911 centers in the state and around the country. But it's something that we want to improve. We've got a great place to work, and it's something that we're on top of at all times. It's a really difficult job, and having a footprint that isn't quite where it needs to be, causes those what we call drafts for overtime, where you have a mandatory holdover or a mandatory coming in early, and our employees already work 10-hour shifts. So that's why we're really working on getting that footprint adjusted. And it's a complex job, but it's such a rewarding job. It's an incredible profession. Do you have any questions?
John?
Sure, if you want to take them.
Absolutely.
So I read through the study, and it's impressive of how complete it is, not only in the scope of the problems that it identifies, but it also outlines some good solutions. And honestly, I hope that you have shared this with all your employees and your partners and have a laminated copy on the break room table, because it truly gives a path forward, and I think it's incredibly helpful. The big takeaway I have from reading this is I'm frankly amazed at how good you have been able to do under the circumstances. To have an average of 551 hours per pay period of required overtime is, and that's just, mind-boggling, both in the waste of money that, paying out at time and a half, but it's no wonder you have, morale and retention problems. It's shocking to me that's such a huge problem. And as a budget committee member, I sincerely apologize, for whatever we've done that have not given you the resources you need to be successful. However, the report you talked about in 2006, it was referred to repeatedly in this one that a lot of those recommendations never came to fruition. And this report done in 2015 outlined an implementation period to the end of 2017. How are you doing? Are you there?
That's a great question. In 2006, neither of us were there then, but when they came back in 2015, we had already evaluated the 2006 report, and we wanted to take it very, very seriously. And that's why we detached our operations manager for a full year to work on just the ESCI study. And then this year, beginning in January, we realigned all the management responsibilities in technical services to address those recommendations. One of the recommendations was that we needed a professional training manager. Mm-hmm. We were unable to add that position to our footprint, so we again realigned our responsibilities, and Cindy handled that, is still in that role now. Yes, there have been many challenges, and we've made a lot of progress. Did you want to add any detail to that?
The first recommendation was that we work on a strategic plan. Mm-hmm. So that was the very first thing we did. We actually contracted with ESCI again to come back and work with us through a strategic plan to implement the recommendations. So through that, we came up with 15 different strategic goals, and that's really what we're working from. It was a group of users, so fire users, police users, and communication specialists, the union, everybody working together to figure out the best way to implement those strategic goals. And so that we prioritize them for different time periods. So they actually go through 2021 with different timelines to implement each of those goals.
Okay. And we've also, I'm glad you brought it up, we've also shared this document heavily with customers, with partners. We have task teams made up of our partners and customers and constituents who are all working on this with us. And the union's been a tremendous partner in working to help us through this. They're part of our ESCI leadership team.
And some of the goals changed a little bit based on the task teams. So like as far as staffing, the group that our internal staffing plan task team wanted, the things that they wanted to work on kind of changed a little bit how that went to, and mostly it's about improving the working conditions, making the changes to schedule, and we've done some things that are no cost changes to improve their control over their own schedule.
So I'm sorry, you said you have shared this with other agencies? Because I'd asked around and nobody had actually ever seen the fire chiefs of the different agencies. Nobody had been able to ever get their hands on it.
Yeah, we actually have fire chiefs that are our customers on our teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So of the 58.5 FTEs you show in the service profile, and the report only talks about, at least in 2015, you only had 49.5. and that gap had been there for some time. Where are you currently at in actual staff positions filled?
Authorized FTE on the floor, our operational staff who actually do the work in dispatch and call taking, is 44.5. That's our authorized number. The rest are management and administrative.
So I'm sorry, 44 and a half is what's authorized, and all those positions are filled?
No, they're not all filled right now. We have 4.5 vacancies. And we also, on top of that, unfortunately, are holding 3 vacancies because of what we call the PSAP budget.
Sure.
Yeah, that we have been unable to fill. We actually have been working with the chief on trying to figure out how to overhire as well as fill those positions that we're unable to fill. The more vacancies you have in a 911 center, and this is proven, we are always in close contact with the other 911 centers in the state. The more vacancies you have, obviously the more overtime you have, but the more drain it is, on all of the employees. So it's something that's top priority.
The quality of the product, goes down, both for the people calling in and the other agencies that are using you.
Yeah, we hope not, honestly, about the quality of the product, but it makes sense. What you're saying
Sure.
makes sense.
Of the outlying agencies, they're paying usage fees. Correct. I mean, the different departments are paying a usage fee based on call volume, based on a number of factors. Correct. I mean, they're contributing.
Well, we're funded by the 911 tax. We're funded by the general fund, and then our fire dispatch customers pay. Yes, they definitely pay a fee in a contract annually.
Ballpark idea how much that is?
The fire contract revenue is about a little over 1.3 million, I believe. 1.7 outside City of Eugene. Thank you. Sorry.
No, thank you. It's important. And so my concern, so these outside agencies, they are not locked into using CLCC.
No, not at all.
And in fact, Coburg Fire, Land Fire Authority, they've already been in talks with Junction City to leave CLCC and Santa Clara. And I mean, there's a customer service component of this that these other agencies, Eugene Fire is not going to leave, but the other agencies that represent $1.7 million of revenue are actively looking to leave.
Yeah, we're worried.
Yeah, that's, so as my concern as a budget committee, member is, if they were to take that money elsewhere, not only would that make this, the budget deal, that would make, implementation of what you're trying to do impossible. A lot harder. Have you heard any of the conversations or been involved with any of the discussions about switching CLCC to a communications district model or a different management structure? Any thoughts on that?
We have, not intimately, but definitely those conversations have come up at the Lane County Fire Defense Board meetings. They hold monthly meetings, and we're always there with representation. Also, I believe some of it may have come up in the ESCI discussions, and there are several other dispatch centers around that might be able to do this dispatching. Junction City is very interested in, enlarging their footprint, and you've got Lynn County, Douglas County, Benton County, very good dispatch centers around us who may be interested, and I don't know if they are.
Right.
And that doesn't count the other 2 PSAPs, the other 2 911 centers, Cottage Grove and Florence.
And and don't get me wrong, I think there's great benefit to trying to fix the CLCC problems, and the benefits are vast, but we got to address the elephant in the room that if $1.7 million walked out the door, this would be problematic. So what do we do to fix that? And I think the report outlines a lot of great recommendations. One of the concerns I have in looking at the service profile as compared to the report, the service profile is very optimistic. It puts things in a good light. I'm not sure that it's accurate. I can't definitively say it's inaccurate, but I think it's misleading given what's in the report. And I would like to, I would like to be able to acknowledge the shortcomings that are there so that we can recognize the improvements that have been made and I'm assuming will be made in the future. So, I'm guessing that Scott's going to ask for a motion here to approve this, before too long, and I'm frankly going to have a hard time saying yes because I think it's misleading. And the ESCI report even talked about that. That in that report, it referenced what was presented to the Budget Committee in 2011, and talked that there was this. You address the performance criteria, the performance measurements, but there's no actual policies addressing that. And it summarized it saying, quote, "It appears that the quality assurance and other goals are often stated but never fulfilled." And so we're saying, in the service profile, that, we're meeting, where you've achieved all these things, but we haven't. So,
Excuse me.
Is this accurate?
Scott, do you mind if we have a chance to respond to all that?
I would, please. I'm sorry. I would love a response. I'm sorry.
Well, I think what is in the service profile is not completely accurate. It was built a number of years ago before the last ESCI study. So it's hard for me personally to speak to it, not having been the manager then, but we are aware of definite things we need to improve on. We've worked really hard through the ESCI study, and I can see where you're coming from. In the future, we hope to incorporate the ESCI material, but that wasn't an option for these performance measures that you have here today. We had to answer those, and a lot of them, and I think I heard the chief say this earlier, they're just not applicable anymore. We have a new computer-aided dispatch system. We've had the ESCI reports that we've been working on, new records management, a lot of changes that we really want to reflect transparently. But in this document, didn't have that opportunity. We talked about it.
It's also important to keep in mind that we hired ESCI to come in and take a look at the operation. And what Pam didn't share, but I think is worth noting, is that the CLCC management team works side by side with the police union's leadership. In every step of this is about the most transparent consulting process that I've ever seen. And Pam's team and the union have worked pretty hard with an understaffed organization to try and implement these. So the staffing shortages that are structurally built into the 911 center translate into shortages among supervisors and shortages in the management team. So ESCI came in, gave us some great recommendations, but we don't have the capacity to implement all those recommendations. We couldn't just add personnel in order to create a training manager, for instance. So this team has found a way to create a training manager anyway, and there's other unfilled positions. So by my observation, they've done a remarkably good job of moving things down the road, but there's only so far we can go with the number of people that we have authorized to work in the center.
Sure.
And our operation was also analyzed by OAA, Oregon Accreditation Alliance, separate from the police department, and we became accredited pretty easily because of all of our best practices.
And I want to reiterate what I started off with. I think you've done an amazing job under the circumstances. It's a bad set of circumstances. So is it possible to request an updated, service profile that represents that? Or know what, from a budget committee standpoint, what do you need to be able to implement this? How many people, how much money?
Yeah, the Community Justice Systems Plan that I've mentioned a few times will include additions to the Communications Center. And right now, we're telling you that it's somewhere between 6 and 12 FTE, and we'll have a better idea of exactly what that should be by the time we present it to council.
Thank you. I'll move us along a little bit here. Sean, you were next. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. So regarding the revenue that comes in from some of these outside contracts, so I understand the initial thought that maybe that's a bad thing if that goes out, but does that revenue really offset the costs associated with managing the volume of calls represented by those outside agencies, or is there a deficit there?
Great question. Not the volume of calls, but if there were less, well, it's hard to explain. If there were less fire customers, I mean, it might offset it a bit, but there's still quite a large workload on the fire EMS side.
Okay.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand. So out of the funding that the city provides, are we kind of subsidizing the calls that are coming from outside agencies? Or does the revenue that they provide really truly cover the costs associated with it?
The revenue really covers the fire dispatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just two other questions. So at least, when I want to get a hold of Comcast or something else, there's all sorts of new technologies. There's chatting and texting and all sorts of things besides just calling somebody. Are you looking at implementing some of those technologies to utilize the existing resources more efficiently?
Those kinds of technologies are generally provided by the state of Oregon Emergency Management 911 program, and we're working with them right now, as are all the other counties in Oregon, to implement text to 911. And it's the first step toward what they call NG 911, which is where 911 centers will get photos and all kinds of different technologies fed right into the center. Text to 911 is the first step and the most important step, and we're on the brink of signing a contract. Have to get that done before we can get it, but we're ready to go once the contract's signed.
Great.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
Yeah. And then finally, so, we started the police department talk with, looking at the queue times and how they're growing. And it seems like a big driver of that is lack of available officers to respond. So when you look at the restrictions that you have in the call center to deal with calls, would further investment there really yield any positive results if we don't have officers available to respond, or should we really kind of fix that problem first before we're able to deal with the higher call volume?
I guess I can offer an example to that. On the police side, on a recent day, we had over 52 calls holding. And that's several pages, electronic pages of calls for the dispatcher to be sifting through. And then when you have that many calls holding and you get an emergency call on the police side, you've got to get the resources going, just like the chief noted. We tap it out, any unit that can clear and copy, those kinds of things. So it would definitely assist our operation on the police side. It's different on fire EMS. We have sufficient resources, although you can always use more. It would definitely help, I think, retention and help the dispatch center immensely. But we need more people too.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
First, I want to say that I've been in the unfortunate position of having to use your services, and I will say that my personal experience has been about as positive one can expect if I'm in the situation where I need to be calling 911. So thank you for that. I do have sort of a more general question that's maybe there about the service profiles in general. And this is only my second service profile meeting. I'm a new member. But my understanding is the blue sheets that we have here are the goals that were set or the metrics or targets that were set 4 years ago and the reporting on those, and that the white sheet is what we're approving to be the metrics for the next 4 years. And I think that kind of leads to the question that I've seen with a couple of these, so not about yours specifically, that there are a number of items on these blue sheets that there aren't data for that are then repeated on the white sheets as the metrics for the next 4 years, which makes me concerned for either myself in 4 years if I'm still on budget committee or a future budget committee about if this data is going to be useful in 4 years. And it's not a question of whether they're the right metrics, whether the impact of that, but kind of why are we doing this if we know that 4 years from now we'll be looking at this and saying, we don't participate in this program and our metrics dependent on our participation in this program.
We have a presentation at the very end that addresses your questions about the metrics.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, could we wait until the end of the presentation to cover most of what you're asking about now?
Okay, yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. Is that all right, Chair?
It is. Jill?
So, just as a clarification, one of the other budget members said made a statement that morale and retention, you have morale and retention problem. My understanding is when you said your retention is great with your existing employees, that you had a hard time in your probationary employees.
That's true.
Okay, so even with your massive overtime, right? It sounds like, is your morale, you think, good in your department right now?
I think it is good. It can always get better, but because of ESCI and some other factors and a great relationship with the union, I think it's really, really good. We have our employees involved in these task teams trying to figure out what will work for them as far as making things better. They like the schedule they're on right now, but they want more predictability in overtime. So we're running a pilot program right now trying to track how can we make that overtime more predictable? Because as you know, maybe even as important or maybe more important than money and salary is your time away from work. So that's just one pilot we're running.
That's great, and I think that it's a very positive situation considering you're 6 to 12 people down to maintain overtime in your existing employees. And my follow-up question would be, as far as probationary employees, as Chief Kearns was describing, is part of having, it strikes me that a 911 responder would be in the call center would have to have a very high level of skills and ability.
Absolutely.
And is part of your 90-day retention due to the fact that, does it have something to do with that? That candidates, there just aren't candidates that have that level of skill, or enough candidates.
Yeah, we, through the 911 industry, have learned that about 2% of it's 2%, right, of the population has the ability to multitask and do this work. And then on top of that, you have our call load, which is quite heavy, just receiving 1,200 calls a day. And, it's a complex job. Yeah. And the technology is changing all the time. We just got a new phone system a few weeks ago, and it's provided by the Office of Emergency Management, but it's different. It's a different phone system than they've been used to for about 5 or 6 years. So those kinds of things, those moving parts are difficult to navigate. So we're trying to make it a really positive environment as much as we can.
And my last question is, you said 75 cents a line is 911 funding. Is that like telephone?
Yes.
Landline?
Yes.
Is that
and cell.
Okay, I was going to ask if it included both.
Yes.
Is there any hope that will come up?
Well, we thought a couple of years ago when they added the cell phone component to the 911 tax that it would increase funding, quite a bit. But we're finding that we're only getting about $6,000 a year because it's hard to collect. We need to make some changes legislatively about how those monies are collected on the cell phones.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So First one, last week we had a presentation on the strategic plan. The call center is involved in that, so those HR functions that were listed as strategic goals would include them?
Yes.
Okay, that's fantastic. I think that'll help with retention as well, and help with mentoring and other things, and therefore improve service. So I'm glad to hear that. I do have a question about call abandonment on the 9-emergency line, and I understand that's not measured.
It is not measured with our old phone system. Unfortunately, it was various components from various vendors, and they couldn't capture that, not by phone number anyway. They could capture numbers, but it was too general. The new phone system has better metrics, and we haven't seen it yet, but we allegedly are going to be able to capture all of that information. In fact, and Cindy can speak to this probably a little deeper than I can, the call takers can actually see those calls come through where they couldn't before. So it's a really good thing, this phone update.
I was afraid that the non-emergency calls that were, you wait for 5 minutes or so and then you hang up, do those become 911 calls, or do they just, I quit, and now there's either a crime or somebody that goes on in distress, or an accident happens or something else?
Right. The non-emergency lines, unfortunately, hold much longer than they should. They just do. We don't have the footprint to take care of those in as timely manner as we would like to. And people do hang up. Yeah, and we'll be able to see those numbers.
Actually, I have one more. So 400 applicants for a police officer position, and we hire 4. Is that funnel the same for the?
So
Cindy does our hiring.
We just closed a process, it closed on November 1st. We had 267 applicants. I don't know how many were invited to test, but I do know we had 4 testing sessions already this week. Each one of them had openings for 40 people, and we only tested around 80 or 90. We have one more testing session on Saturday where we're testing about 20. So that either they were screened out, they didn't meet minimum requirements at the human resources level, which are pretty minimum. They have to state that they can, that they have a high school diploma or a GED. They have to state that they're willing to work shift work, and they have to state that they have a year of public contact experience. So they're pretty low minimum requirements. So either that or they just didn't sign up for tests. We also have a pretty high no-show rate for our testing, and this is just the first of the tests. Then we have another test that comes up in a couple of weeks. We could hire 4. We've had processes where we hire no one, and that does put you behind in your staffing when you can't hire anybody from a process, or you only hire 1 or 2. We've actually had a couple of years with really good success. We had one process where 12 people passed all of the requirements, including the background and psychological evaluation. So that was good, and we offered to all 12. 11 of them accepted, and so.
So it's a similar funnel, though, as you described.
So we do have candidates and people that are interested. It's just when we get into the requirements, the attrition rate's pretty high.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's the same throughout the industry. It's not just our area, not just our state, but across the nation, similar problems.
And even though we hear that, we're still working toward overcoming those statistics. We want to be the best we can be.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you so much.
And I would encourage anybody who hasn't done a ride-along in the Communications Center to do that.
I would love that.
Pretty enlightening, and you'll see how excited our staff are to do the work they do. It's pretty good.
That ride-along is available for patrol as well?
Yes.
The community members.
Yeah, we would love it if you all came to patrol and communications.
And Scott, actually, as being on the other side of the radio from you guys, I do really appreciate, and I think you do a great job. I don't think that my being critical of some points was everyone there that I interact with is good. Scott, I was alluding to, is it possible to request an updated one of this, or have you guys come back in a year or something and give an update progress?
One time in the future, is that right?
I would have have to defer to the chief.
Updated version of the
Service profile or something that reflects the study in a little bit more.
Would it be fair to do this? Because
yeah, what we'll be talking about at our conclusion is that we've finalized the Police Executive Research Forum study, so we have that. And we just completed the strategic plan. And so that and some other resources have given us what we need in order to lay out a good plan for the future. We could come back. I mean, I'll commit to anything since I won't be here. We could come back in a year and give you a presentation that's twice as long as this one. No. But yeah, we can do that.
I guess with the reference you made to there's going to be some more clarity regarding some of the metrics questions and the questions there, can we maybe hold on voting on these until that's set? Would that be something that we can do so that we can get that clarity before we're asked to vote?
Can you hear me? Okay. So what we've done sometimes in the past is made a recommendation to come back or to provide profiles. So you could ask to have the profiles revamped with more information, and then we could even send them out electronically. So we've done that in the past where we, in the future, after folks have time to revisit and restructure their profiles, we can send those out and repost them to the Budget Committee.
Roger.
I would propose for consideration, if we haven't heard a presentation yet on the forms, that, and if there is going to be a presentation that you're going to revamp this with your new goals, yes, that we would approve these, or a motion to approve them, subject to the revision of new goals as presented by the Forms Committee. That would be my motion.
That was going to be my suggestion. I think there's a presentation in January, and then we'll be going into the budget cycle.
Yes.
If we could look at those strategies and targets that are in question and maybe provide those to you for future evaluation after the studies are all complete.
Right.
If there's any changes, and we'll approve as is for tonight.
So would you like them to come back to the Budget Committee in the winter, is that what you're saying, or in the spring?
What I'd like is for us to provide those strategies and targets that are in question from tonight's presentation, and then we could give the answers after the studies are concluded and evaluated, and then maybe they could either email those back to us, or if they're large enough and they want to present, then we can schedule some time. But I think email would be just sufficient as well.
Yeah, I just don't want a situation where we're asking them to do something when they're doing something else.
So I think we're
like
early in the process.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve the
Chief Kearns.
So the other thing to consider is that there will be a new police chief here in the spring, and they would probably want to have a hand in what those objectives should be.
Yeah, sorry.
Good.
I think my main sort of interest is that, 4 years from now, 3 years from now, next time, they have metrics that actually, when they're looking at this, they're seeing actually what the strategic goals are and how that has gone through, as opposed to ones that say, we just don't know, we weren't measuring this. Mm-hmm. And I think if that requires, we need to update this, but just as long as this kind of reflects what your strategic goals actually were and how they performed.
And I think the strategic plan that they're working to outline some community trust and other metrics that would probably be incorporated in those future dates as well.
Yeah, it seems mostly like a timing issue regarding when we're having this meeting and when you're doing that other work.
Yes.
So, Chief, so that I understand, is your recommendation that we do, email this back, in the winter, or that your successor comes back with these guys a year from now and we try again, with a new set of...
John, I'd like for us to identify, so if you found some metrics, some strategies that you call into question, if you'll email those to Twyla. And Eliza, same thing, I've identified a few as well. maybe she'll organize those in a fashion to get most efficiently staffed or relooked, and then we'll get those back out to everyone as they come up with answers, because the answers probably all won't be at one time. We'll have earlier answers, and that way maybe during the budget process, if something comes up, we could take a look at that and have the information available with it on time. Sound good?
Yeah, I'm great with that.
So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the service profiles as written, knowing that we're going to be soliciting your comments to go back. There we have. Second? All in favor? Unanimous. We'll be moving on to, or thank you, ladies.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
really appreciate it. Oh, you're staying? Okay, so now we're police records management and analysis service profiles.
So just as Central 911 is the gateway, the regional gateway for public safety services, our records and data section is for EPD and for our neighboring law enforcement agencies and other agencies as well. Records staff handles all the front counter customers who come to, I was going to say HQ headquarters, and they also handle the administrative lines and really the complete flow of information in and out of the Eugene Police Department. They're really the hub. They're a talented, well-trained group of people, really proud to do the work and to work alongside police officers, investigators, and our whole staff, including animal services. We get people from with animal services needs who come to the front counter as well as just a plethora of different community members. Our record specialists have a complex job, and you probably know some of the work they do. They confirm warrants, they meet regulatory deadlines, state, federal guidelines. They provide public records. They're the gateway for public records for Eugene Police. They make sure we're CJIS compliant, that we're compliant in all of those sorts of facets. They work with the courts, the DA's office, and other law enforcement agencies. I'm really just touching the surface of what they do. They're a resource to all of us in Eugene Police. And they're really, I think most importantly, are subject matter experts for a lot of the technologies, particularly our records management system. Until just a few years ago, we were doing business really on paper. And once we acquired the SunGuard system about 3 years ago.
2013.
Yeah, 2013-14. Their job completely changed, as did the job of officers in the field. And now everything's electronic. It's submitted electronically, for instance, reports that officers take in the field and tracked electronically. So we've made huge strides in the last few years, for sure, moving from paper. Our SunGuard system is still viable. It's excellent. As I said, it was installed between 2013 and 2014. We have partners who are coming onto that system. The system was acquired by a company called Superion, so we're all switching, calling it Superion rather than SunGuard, but you may know it as SunGuard. Lynn County Sheriff's Office, Lynn County 911 just went to it. The University of Oregon is going to it. Benton County is looking at it. Marion County is looking at it. We're hoping to build that kind of regional system that we once had with AIRS. That's a lofty, wish, but it seems to be going that way. In addition to all of those tasks, we also handle the IT and technology side of the department. We have 2 technology teams. We have 2 people who are specifically assigned to headquarters, and we have 2 other people who are assigned to 911. And they track projects. We have a multitude of projects going. For instance, I mentioned Text to 911, the new phone system. We have many, many projects that just impact the police side of our organization also. Any questions about records and IT?
I'll just make a point. Again, we have a few that have been carried forward from the previous with no data available, and we're going next. So I will identify those in the document before.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I guess I'll just say, because I feel like, you were here for the last one, and that was where a lot of these questions that I don't think were specific to that report came up. But I will say that having been through some paper to record to electronic transitions, that's a very difficult process to go through. And so thank you for doing that. And that's I'm glad to hear that's gone forward.
Thank you.
So.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes, motion to accept the service plan.
Yes.
Second.
Second. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so
You're
much.
going to join us again?
Yes, thank you.
All right, our final service profile, the police administration.
Tim Shuck and I are going to do this together. These responsibilities are divided between the Office of the Chief and Operations Support. So these are the responsibilities that are in our professional standards office, internal affairs and liaison to the police commission, strategic planning, council and citizen liaison, policy and accreditation training, and public information office. So when the 2005 PERF study was completed, there were 57 recommendations, and a number of those had to do with the intake and handling of complaints. And PERF recommended that we come up with some kind of auditor system to monitor how internal affairs were handled. It recommended that we create a full-time policy analyst, and that we increase the staffing in the internal affairs office. And that we create a structure where training, policy, and internal affairs are all in the same place. So that's what this function essentially accomplished. We added a sergeant's position, which is now a full-time sergeant that develops policy. Sergeant Kyle Williams is in that position now, and he works with the Police Commission on the development of some policy. We added a sergeant's position to internal affairs, so we have 2 full-time sergeants in there, program manager and an administrative assistant. And then since 2005, the City Council established a independent auditor oversight system with a civilian review board. So we've done everything that PERF asked and a lot more in the establishment of all this. The way that complaints work with internal affairs is that they're all classified by the police auditor. There's about 400 citizen complaints a year that range from someone who feels that the police officer used too much force or that they were rude, to someone who saw a police car driving with its lights and siren and they didn't understand why that was necessary, those kinds of complaints. And then we look into every single one of them, and we investigate those that are classified as serious misconduct. And the union is given regular updates on the progress of those investigations. They're all adjudicated by the chief of police, who receives recommendations from the auditor and from the chain of command. And then the Civilian Review Board reviews some of those cases in a public setting. So we have a pretty sophisticated internal affairs system, and the oversight has persistently refined it. So I think the community, if they understood how it worked, the quality of the work that's done there. The policy sergeant also manages our accreditation. A couple of years ago, we became accredited through the Oregon Accreditation Association, and we are renewing that presently. Our training is staffed by 1 sergeant and 1 full-time police officer. And this is probably where we have one of the greatest stressors in our patrol staffing. This is the source of one of those. We train, every officer attends a 10-hour training day 9 times a year, 9 months out of the year, 1 training day that month. So we have 4 training sessions a month, and the primary training components are defensive tactics, emergency vehicle operation, and firearms. And included in all that is crisis intervention training and legal updates and mandatory training such as first aid and hazardous materials training and hazardous materials communication training, and it goes on and on. Well, police officers put that training on, but we only have one sergeant and one patrol or one police officer working in the unit. So we have ad hoc training teams. Our defensive tactics team probably has 10 instructors. So those instructors are coming from patrol to prepare their training and also to implement it on 4 training days a month. So we're constantly pulling from patrol, backfilling with other patrol officers in a pretty inefficient process, which is very typical in police agencies. The Salem Police Department does the same thing. It's constantly draining their workforce in order to provide training. And I'd say one of the most stabilizing things we could do for the quality of our service on the street would be to have a full-time training team that provided all that training and could also do other professional work. And then our public information office is the busiest PIO in the city. We handle several times more calls from the public and from the media in a month than all the other PIO offices in the city put together. And they do an exemplary job. They show up before all of us get to work. They leave after we all go home. They put together a daily bulletin for media of all the arrests and significant incidents that happened in the previous 24 hours. Media relies pretty heavily on that for their information, and they're constantly anticipating what the next news cycle is going to be excited about so that we're prepared and we've got the information for them. And they do an exemplary job. So that's the first half of police administration.
So the next part is operations support, and we have several areas within there. We have the finance section, and we have a budget of about $56 million, and within that we have contract management. So we have contracts with the schools and the U of O, First Avenue Shelter, our dispatch customers, and like Eugene Airport. Those are some of the examples. We also have grants. We have several grants. A couple of those would be our seatbelt grant, our DUI enforcement grant. We have the CORT that the chief referred to earlier. That's paid for with a grant. And one of our more recent ones is the body-worn camera. You may have seen that on the media. Our folks are wearing the cameras now. And then also in finance, we have payroll. We have about 330 employees, and we 2 different unions, and we do the payroll for those as well. The next one is crime analysis. You got to see some of their great work earlier. We look at the data. We put it in a graphic form often. We show those crime trends on a weekly basis to patrol so we can put our officers where the crime's actually happening. They're really the cornerstone of our DLP efforts. 2 crime analysts. They do that, and they also do quite a few public records requests. Our public records requests have been increasing in the last few years, and they have to do those requests as well as the DLP. We have internal requests as well. The next one is our volunteers in policing. We currently have about 65 volunteers in policing. Our youngest is 21 and our oldest is 84. And we have about 40 different jobs that those folks can do. Things like the squad car maintenance team, the subpoena service team. We have Huckleberry Patrol that has graffiti abatement downtown in the summertime. Seniors on patrol, just several different teams. And in last year in 2016, we had 70 volunteers that contributed over 13,000 hours for added value to the city of over 320,000. So we're very proud of that program. We also have won several awards. In 2015, our squad car maintenance team won the Governor's Award for the region, and last year our chaplain program won the overall Lane County Award. So we're really proud of that. We talked a little bit about this earlier, the recruiting and the backgrounds. We have a recruiting team that's led by a lieutenant and a sergeant and 7 officers. We attend recruiting events year-round. We are currently hiring, so if you know anybody, please send them our way, epgjobs.com, if I can shamelessly plug that. And currently the challenges, you guys have addressed it, the fully staffing. It's a challenge for us. The last one is facilities and fleet. We have 5 facilities that we're responsible for and a fleet of about 150 vehicles. And that's op support.
Questions?
Just a point of clarification. So why am I seeing 6.8 FTE on this sheet and something more than that on the presentation?
Elizabeth, you want to?
In the...
Yeah.
Hold on again. So the data that is pulled for the service profiles is pulled in a different format than the data we align up our divisions with.
Okay.
So that's just a matter of the way.
So you're counting a different group of people.
It's counting the same group of people in a different way. So if I can explain it, I mean, it's right. So these guys rely on service codes to pull data, program codes, and we actually looked at hardcore numbers that are people sitting in divisions.
Okay.
So
which ones, so how many people actually work in the administration?
Those are our current numbers up there.
Okay.
So
I'm assuming that, we pay those people, that they some of them are volunteers, not those people, but we do have some volunteers that are in this area, but I'm assuming that all 32 of those people get paid. Where does that show up in the budget when we're looking at these service profiles?
So I'm assuming it's part of the expenditures, all funds, right?
I can provide one example. For example, in op support, animal services is under op support. They were actually presented first, but we have a supervisor and 2 employees, and while they're counted in op support, they're not counted as part of the numbers that are here. These 10 FTE, these 7 FTE.
But they're in that.
But they're in that number there. For example, yeah, quality assurance person works out at evidence control unit. They're also in op support, but they're probably counted in the investigations because they work at that particular unit. I don't have all of the examples, but those are some that come to mind.
That's
Is that helpful? Okay, great.
Probably the effect of the redistribution of responsibilities that happens over time, as the organization reshapes itself to deal with new demands.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question. On the volunteers. So sometimes we have to make a police report or what have you by internet. And there's no follow-up, and sometimes we hear, an officer never came by, or I think we send those out by email, maybe sometimes. Or you're directed because sometimes you're asked, do you need help filling it out? I'm trying to remember my own experience with that. And I did not do it, so that's why I'm asking. So we have some times that we're not really tracking what occurred in the community. Is there any chance for a volunteer in the crime prevention maybe to come by and just say, hey, do you have any trouble filling this form out? Or did you I checked in the area and it was just your mailbox. So the good news is it's not a bigger issue. It's just the bad news is you. I mean, is there any way to get that empathy piece to the community to build that sense of trust and that somebody's actually taking their complaint?
My response, so with the volunteer positions, we have to work with the union. We don't have volunteer positions that take union jobs. So what you're describing
we crossed the line.
It would be something we definitely want to discuss with the union and get their cooperation on. So I don't have an immediate answer right now. We do discuss those kinds of things. We have, for example, the cold case squad, and they've solved a couple homicides for us. We work with the union when we develop those kinds of teams, but we want to be mindful of not getting into the union jobs because we have that collective bargaining agreement. Yeah.
And I have been in the parking garage and I've seen the volunteers at work and they do a great job. And I think that's a success story for our community, and to be down there with the fumes and vacuuming out and cleaning cars, and it's just amazing to see that. And I think it's remarkable. It really is. So thank you for including the volunteers. And any other questions, thoughts? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion? One, John.
Sure, I'll make a motion.
Second. Approve.
second, yes.
All right. All in favor? Unanimous. It's approved. Okay.
Sure. We discussed this a little bit a few minutes ago when you made the motion to send us your questions on the service profiles. But essentially, we've just finished our strategic plan. As I said, we've got the PERF study back. We're preparing we're calling it the 21st Century Policing Study, but it's actually the Community Justice Systems Plan that we'll be presenting to City Council. And we'll have a new police chief. So there will be an opportunity here in the near future to establish the kind of measures that I think you'll be comfortable with.
Thank you. Any last questions, comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we've all been invited to the 21st Century Policing, which will occur on November 28th from 5:30 to 7:30. You have that email. Please RSVP to Holly Matthews as requested if you can attend. And then our Budget Committee meetings for the winter and spring will be finalized in the next few weeks. And you'll be receiving those notices and also the mailers that come to your door prior to the meetings in the very near future. So with that, we're adjourned. Thank you for your time.